Hi, everyone. This is Manda. Gonna just test my microphone here. Okay, good. I see waves, so that means we're live. I think we're probably expecting a couple more, so I'll give it another couple minutes. But I'm going to be primarily with you today, walking through our engagement results, which is really exciting. So I'll give it another couple minutes, and then I'll see if Matt or Bob or anybody has any words to kick us off before I jump into a few things myself.
But yeah, let's get going, and maybe if we can get, just for the record, get Mandy to do a roll call for us.
Yeah, Bob Davis.
Yeah, here.
Erica Libanow.
Here.
Matt Altman.
Here.
Terry Clark.
Here.
John Ward.
Here.
Julie Peterson.
Here.
Amanda Scott.
Here.
Dr. Martin.
Here.
Mandy Olson.
Here.
Michelle Whirl.
Here.
Carrie Barr.
Here.
Rhonda Holden.
Here.
Vicky Machero.
Here.
Ron Erlacher. Scott Olander. Jeff Yamada.
Here.
And then if there's anyone else from KVH that's on.
Thank you, Mandy.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'll just say just a couple things. Super impressed with the numbers. Oh my goodness. End up like 78%.
Yep.
79.
Wow.
Round it. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm rounding up to.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never heard of those kind of numbers before. So that's fantastic. Anyway, we'll turn it over to, is it Amanda and Julie?
Yeah, so I have two sentences I want to say first. The purpose of this meeting, we want to make really clear that you are getting unscrubbed data. We want this to be the data as it was received. That being said, we also didn't want to do just an absolute data dump where everybody was on their own to have that first conversation or first look at it. So Amanda's going to show it to all of us, and then you will all receive the report afterwards. And then in conjunction with the strategic plan and whatever the board desires to be the rollout, we will begin acting on this information. Amanda, is it a fact that nothing has been deleted from this?
That's correct. So, and I'll get into that a little bit, but these are exact screenshots from our system. So no filtering really. We actually don't even have the advanced reporting in this system to even do so. So
I have a quick,
visuals.
Sorry, I have a quick question. Sorry to interrupt, man. Is there I think some employees were curious as to how they were going to hear about the data. Is there going to be some way where we report back to them, like, here's what we did well and here's what we're going to work on? And then if that's something you're going to do, I don't know about the timing, whether you wait till after the strategic plan work or what. So is there, or is there no plan to report back?
Now, this meeting is being recorded, right, Mandy Weed?
Looks like it, yeah.
And the plan is to make employees aware that this meeting occurred, and it'll be posted on the intranet so they can look at that. But I expect that will be part of the discussion the board has today. Do we slice and dice it by department? Do we roll it out and let, what are next steps to report as opposed to respond?
Okay, yep, that's what I was curious about. Thank you.
Okay.
That's right. I have that on my agenda as well. And I think after seeing some of the visuals, we might have a better context of how we roll that out.
And we should probably wash our hands because the data has been unscrubbed. Make sure you sanitize, okay?
That's right.
Terry,
Okay.
this is being recorded, so everything you say is going to be retained for posterity. Just keep that in mind.
Okay, I will. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we are being extremely safe and keeping everything clean. Yes. And yes, I know, I'm a goofhead sometimes.
Great. All right. Any other thoughts or questions before we get started? Okay. Well, we'll certainly have time at the end that I've kind of built in as well. So first of all, I just want to say thank you. And I think like Bob said, incredible results. 79% of our employees participating in this. And when you think about naturally that some people are going to be out of the office or just unavailable to participate in the survey, 79% not only exceeded our goal, but it was an incredible amount and higher than the last comprehensive survey that we had here at KVH. So real kudos. We really appreciate the partnership with the board that you all went out and encouraged employees and reminded them of the process, and especially that it is a confidential survey. And I think the commitment with leadership and the board really did help us with this. And also thank you to all the marketing and communications that Michelle's team did in partnership with HR to really make this a campaign so employees know how important this feedback is to us. So I wanted to just kind of mention that. And then I also wanted to talk about the tool itself in case people missed that or maybe weren't aware. We did get great response about the tool being easy to use. The questions didn't take long to complete. We got great feedback just about the ease of the survey, which is great because these things can come as extensive and short, really, as it's a wide range of length of these types of surveys. But we did get great response about that. Skills Survey is the vendor that we used for that process. And Skills Survey is a well-known vendor for assessments in the HR industry. Many healthcare organizations use them and they're really well known. They started out for reference assessments and they really specialized on in the recruitment and talent management process, have you really select and retain the right employees for your organization. So they've done a lot of research on that and support for organizations in that area, skills assessments and staff development type of things. But they're really kind of just breaking into this employee engagement arena. And so while they're a very, very well-known vendor, it was really great to be a partnership with them when we already use their other services so that we can compare other data that we have as an organization. So with that, again, the tool was great. The questions were very standard. When we log into our dashboard, we have some really great visuals that we're going to be able to show you exactly what we see from those dashboards. We don't have a lot of advanced reporting techniques from this system, which again, like Julie said, we're just going to show you exactly what we see. We're not doing a lot of slicing and dicing of things. So we are going to show the visuals for what we see in the system. And then it's really helpful for us to be able to see the percentages and how we did compared to some of our past surveys. But also looking at, they don't have a lot of benchmarking yet within this system, but we do have some benchmark data for some of these questions based on other surveys that we have done of similar nature in the past. So we can talk more about that later if there's particular areas that we want to dive into more and say, gosh, is that something KVH has improved on or not? We can do some comparing. It's just a little bit of different wording and things from some of our past surveys. So just wanted to make some comments about that. But Skill Survey has been a really great partner for us. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to kind of jump into some of the overall scores and then get a little bit deeper into some of the questions that we had. And if you all remember from the survey, we had some standard questions that are very similar on engagement surveys that are really kind of well known within the industry. And then we have some questions that we wanted to hear from our employees, things about COVID, for example, and how we're doing that were customized questions that, of course, we would not have benchmarking data on, but are important to us to know what our employees are thinking and feeling. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, hopefully you can all see that. Give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Okay, can everybody see my screen? It should say overall satisfaction in purple. Okay, All right, well, we'll go ahead and go through some of this. So what I want to start out with is really kind of looking at our overall satisfaction scores. So when employees were asked their overall satisfaction with their job here at KVH, we got a 4.1 out of 5. And I asked Jen if we could break down that number, and we were able to dive into that a little bit today, so that you can see out of that 4.1 out of 5 score, how many people in our organization said they were very satisfied with their job, satisfied, neither dissatisfied nor satisfied, dissatisfied, or very dissatisfied. So you can see it at our very top scores. 32.9% were very satisfied, 50% were satisfied. So when you add those together, 82.9% of our employees said they're very satisfied or satisfied with their job here at KVH, which is fantastic. The main job aspects enjoyed by employees, they had the option to select 3 of these. So you'll see the percentages don't necessarily add up to 100%. People had the option to select 3 of these. And these were the things that were the main job aspects that were important that were enjoyed by employees. So the first one you'll see, our top, my skills are a great match for my job. I feel I have the support of my coworkers to get the job done. I have the flexibility I need in my work schedule. And I feel I have the support from my manager and supervisor to get the job done. So those were some of our top areas there, and what was really important to our employees, that their main job aspects enjoyed. So again, this focus on this screen is their actual job. So when they think about job satisfaction. So very good score, again, 82%, 4.1 out of 5. Again, we don't have necessarily, a benchmark overall for that, but when we look back at some of our other surveys that we've done about, things like being happy with their work and some similar worded questions, they really range between more in the 60 to 70%. So 82% is really good compared to some of our other related questions we've had in the past.
And what about comparison with similar organizations other than KVH?
Yeah, so that's the thing with this survey, that they're not as advanced yet in doing that. So, but with overall benchmarks, but I do have, I am looking into that to try to get to some other resources in healthcare. And because there are some other vendors that do have that data, so I am looking into getting that. But it's definitely high from what I have seen in my experience. And I will also say that if you look at the Gallup organization and some of their statistics, not for healthcare specific, but they even have statistics as high as that 85% of employees in some sectors are not engaged, and we have that flipped, which is really great. And so there's a lot of information out there, but really compared to the exact questions here, we don't have a great benchmark yet of overall satisfaction. But this is.
And Mandy, I sorry to interrupt, but I think it's interesting that on the top scale, very dissatisfied is 0.8%.
Yeah.
On the bottom one, none of the above is 0.8%. So
Right.
We're looking at 0.8% of the employees that filled out this survey are very, very, very dissatisfied with the organization, it appears.
Yeah, that's right. So very few. And, our coaching again to employees and managers and with this survey is when you look at an organizational engagement or satisfaction survey like this, unfortunately, we're really not, because of the nature of it being confidential, we're really not able to, assist as much in those areas because we don't have the specific information, it being confidential. We have coach people.
How many employees actually filled it out? I know you said it was 79%, but exactly how many employees filled it out? Do you have the number?
I can try to get that while I'm on the call here.
In on this one is 374.
374?
I'll have that for you in 2 seconds, Amanda.
Okay, that would be great. Thanks, Michelle. Yeah.
So then if we multiply 0.08 times 374, that comes up to 29 employees.
Right. So I think
so. It's 0.008, so it's 3 employees.
Yeah.
Oh, 3 employees.
Right.
Oh, yes, that's right. Okay. So much for my math skills.
Yeah. And so again, it's important that we don't know who those employees are. But we do encourage them to, if they have a specific concern about their individual employment experience that is causing some dissatisfaction, that they do reach out to their manager or HR or some leader that they trust to really hope we can support them in those areas.
So when I look at the top 3 that people chose, Amanda, my skills are a great match for my job. That feels like a staff development type question. How do, and then lower down where we had 37% say, I feel like I have the support of my manager.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm alone in remembering that was pretty dismal in the previous surveys that we've done. So in continuing, it's lower than having the support of my coworkers, and that's good. But I'm seeing staff development in the selection of these, because only 40, and I don't mean to flip this, but that means that 58% of the people did not pick that my skills are a great fit for this job, right?
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think you'll see that some themes of those things, you're going to see similar themes as we go along with these questions. And, a lot of surveys that are done in organizations have similar themes. You can simplify by really breaking it down to the employee domain, which is really, what are their job skills needed? How can do they have what they need to do their job, the resources? What's their experience every day doing their job? Then you have kind of that management domain. Do they trust their manager? Do they have support from their manager? Do they trust their leadership? And then the organization domain, do they believe in the organization? Do they feel we're ethical? So if you think about those different levels, you'll see those themes regardless of the vendor or survey that is done. And there's some real kind of core themes around engagement that are well known, that are going to be kind of your best areas to really focus on to improve engagement in your organization. And you'll see that a little bit more in the engagement drivers. So again, this is the job aspect. So I'll move on.
I put in the chat box, 365 people responded to the survey.
Okay, excellent. And as a reminder, Dr. Martin is working specifically around the provider engagement survey. So you'll hear more about that. That'll be a separate process. So again, that's why they aren't included here. They had a special survey process in the past, but they do have some benchmarking data that they can compare to, which is great. And then per diems, the nature of our per diems here at KVH. There's some people who will maybe work, once a quarter, once a year. So we aren't always able to capture per diems as far as our regular workforce. It's something that managers are working on, making sure they can really understand who is per diem and are they still on their active status for their employee list. So if you scroll down then to the next section, which is the overall satisfaction with the company. So the last section was about their job specifically. This is with the organization. So kind of moving to a broader level, you'll see kind of a similar breakdown of the very satisfied and satisfied. And even though those are different percentages, that actually adds up to 82.9% as well, that are very satisfied or satisfied with the organization, with KVH as an organization. So again, 82% on this one, which is great. The top area here for best things about KVH is the praise and recognition for my work, which is so exciting and great to see how important that is for employees, because that is something that we can take action on pretty easily. We have a recognition committee. That's something that managers can certainly create goals around and engage employees with. So that's something that is within our control. We can actively give praise and recognition for work for employees. So that's exciting. We also have systems and processes at this company that support high quality work. I have sufficient opportunities for growth at this company. So as Julie mentioned, that's definitely a staff development and career development focused question there. I believe that the policies of this company are fair and apply equally to everyone. The management at this company keeps employees informed, and I trust management to do the right thing. And then none of the above. So again, these are the top areas that are the best things about KVH that employees selected. And you see the same themes of do they have what they need to do the job, and trusting management, and different levels of their experience as an employee. So any questions about those two overall scores, 4.1 out of 5 for overall satisfaction?
Amanda,
Yeah.
so I have a question. You said they could choose 3 of these. Is that
That's right.
accurate?
Yeah.
So, so for example, the management, I trust management to do the right thing.
Mhm.
If that was everyone's 4th choice, it would not have been selected, even though it may have been true. So it feels like we've set a little bit of a trap by limiting them to 3 rather than choosing every statement they feel is true, that we might be chasing the wrong thing as we try to look for growth and ways to improve. So just a mathematical thought that is a little disconcerting to me at this point from what I'm seeing.
Thanks, John. We'll definitely note that. And again, this is real first processing of all of this, and I'll be taking notes on some things that we could either get more information for the board on, that we can continue to talk with the board and leadership, and then are there things that if we choose to go with this vendor next time around that we could do a little differently without changing the benchmarking ability of our survey. So thank you.
Can I ask why we limited them to 3 rather than each statement they felt was true? What was the strategy behind that?
So I don't know if Matt, so for those that were developing the survey together, would anybody like to comment on that? So we did have HR, I think, and Matt and Bob and Julie, and kind of when we were selecting questions here, we had kind of a group looking at that. I don't know if there's any comments or if that was just the way of the question design, but feel free if anybody has comments on that, so jump in. I believe that's the format of the survey vendor.
Yeah, I don't think we had a conversation about that. I think it's just the format of the survey.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Is anybody else concerned that we're losing some aspects of what people were really thinking by limiting them to 3 rather than checking each statement that they felt was accurate?
I agree with you, John, because if I was going to fill the survey out, it would be really tough for me to choose 3 of the statements that I agree with, because I may agree with all of them because they are all positive things. I think we will have to be careful not to run ourselves down a rabbit hole on a wrong thing here.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that, and you're right. It doesn't mean they disagree with it, but it does tell us something. You know, it tells us that we're doing, at least they think that that we're doing better at some things than others, right? So
Yeah.
if we didn't have them rank them at all, then they may think, well, you know, I trust management kinda, but man, I really think I'm getting recognition. We wouldn't be able to make that distinction, you know.
But Matt, is it possible that they're saying choose 3 things, as they go down, they pick the first 3 things that are a yes for them and don't really, it's not like they're necessarily prioritizing all of the statements, they're just choosing the first 3 that are yes. Is that a possibility from a?
Well, yeah, it's a possibility, but I mean, you know, I mean,
can somebody tell me exactly how the statement was written? It says choose 3 of the following choices, or rank. It would be helpful to know how you phrased the question before somebody looked at this list of possibilities.
Okay, great. Yeah, we can put that on a follow-up list. And what I'll add is, you know, and this was kind of on my kind of closing, what I wanted to talk about.
Amanda, can I
sure.
break in just a moment here? Where it says best things about Kittitas Valley Healthcare, is that just for our information, or was that a title given on the survey?
So these were what it says is these were the top 3 things that people selected as the things that they enjoy the most about working for Kittitas Valley Healthcare.
Sure. So I see this as my favorite desserts are, and there's maybe peanut butter chocolate ice cream, chocolate chip cookies, and lemon meringue pie. That doesn't mean that I don't like chocolate malts as well. That could be, I mean, they could all be great, but if I'm limited to selecting 3, I don't see it as the other things are important or aren't true.
That's correct.
It serves a different purpose.
Yeah. So that's exactly right, Erica, and which is why I mentioned that this was going to be something I talked about at the end. But when you look at a survey like this is really a starting point for conversations. This is a point in time, and it's a set of data that is hopefully not going to be the only time we ask for feedback from our employees, right? And so as we talk about our next steps as a board and leadership and how we really communicate this out with employees, these are conversations that we can have and say, gosh, it's so important to us that our employees trust our management to do the right thing. Here's the data that we got, and what does that mean to you? And with any survey, we of course can't stop people, unfortunately, from just going down the line and passing through the sections and not being thoughtful with it. But we sure hope they are, and that they are thinking of their top areas. So again, these are a starting point of conversations, our initial processing with you all, since we got the results a little over a week ago. But I sure hope it's not the last time that we all look at it together, and that it can help inform us of some areas that we need more information on. So
I think we need to. I mean, John makes an important point. I mean, this it doesn't mean they disagree with it, that they didn't put it as one of the top three, but it doesn't mean that it tells us nothing, because if I mean, what it tells us is that for 77.3% of the employees, trusting management to do the right thing was not one of the top three, right? So if we didn't have any ranking whatsoever and they could just pick as many as they wanted, to take Erica's example, it might just be like, well, I'll take a chocolate malt over asparagus, it's fine, but I'm not that crazy about it. Well, we wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that and what they think is the most amazing thing in the world. So
right,
it's a trade-off, and any survey is I mean, of course you can have people that just check the first three boxes, but you just have to assume that that's not the case. In student evaluations, if they give someone all fives, they could just be going down just to do it, but you have to take them seriously as evaluations. You can't assume, I mean, maybe they meant for them to be all five. So I don't think that you can, I mean, if we assume that, then the entire survey would just be worthless, because they could always just check. I mean, everybody who did very satisfied may just be checking the top one, and everyone who did satisfied maybe just checking the second one. Well, we don't know that. So I think John's right that it doesn't tell us everything, but I think it does tell us something.
So it's interesting, because when I look at these responses and I think about the work ahead, this is less about how they're rating the organization and more about telling us what's important to them.
Absolutely.
That's how I took this. Yeah. They want us to focus on that they're appropriately recognized, not that. So those top three are where they want our energy, because that's what's most important to them. That's how I read this. Not these are the three things KVH does best.
Yeah.
So Mandy, does the organization that did this for us, do they have some rationale behind these questions and how to read them and why they do it? I mean, you would think that they would have some type of information that says, this is how to do it. I think that might be worthwhile for us to read it, because you would think that they have gone down this rabbit hole many times with other organizations and come up with it. Like Matt was saying, they may have decided on this choice so that way you don't get all the number fives out there, somebody just answering it. But I am still concerned that we may miss some information that John was saying. I would be interested to see the rationale or the explanation from the company.
Okay, great. Yeah, we can mark that as a follow-up of more information from the company on how they've selected their questions. I will tell you that the nature of these, again, kind of going back to when you look at the themes, rather than the language and flipping around the language of the exact questions, these are common with any engagement survey. What there is a lot of research out there on is what drives engagement with employees. There's tons and tons of research on that. And again, trusting management to do the right thing and their relationship with their manager. I can give tons of information on that, since we kind of started with that question a little bit. But actually, I'm going to scroll down, and this kind of relates more to our conversation when you look at the core drivers of engagement. these are those questions I'm talking about. You're going to see these themes, whether it's skill survey, press scanning, and you're going to see very similar, different wording, but you're going to see very similar themes. And so these are the engagement drivers. That these are the core aspects that are going to drive engagement with our organization. What's great is that my skills are a great match for my job is one of the core drivers, and that was one of our top areas, which is very exciting. I have a friend at work. My job allows me to make a meaningful contribution to this company. I have the flexibility. I need my work schedule. I feel I have the support of my coworkers to get the job done. So really focusing on teamwork. I feel I have the support of my manager, supervisor to get the job done. I have the freedom to make decisions and be self-directed in my work. I feel energized by the work I'm doing in this job. I believe that the policies of this company are fair and apply equally to everybody. I receive appropriate praise and recognition for my work, which was one of our top as well. The management at this company keeps employees informed. I trust management to do the right thing. And systems and processes at this company support high quality work. I have sufficient opportunities for growth at this company. So this might be a better view for kind of our previous conversation. So they didn't necessarily pick 3 here. These are our average scores on the areas that are most critical for engagement with our organization. And these are common, again, industry, kind of when you look at engagement with employees, those are going to be the areas that you'll see very commonly in regardless of what survey you're using. And these are areas that we can pull if there's specific areas that we want to, let's say, create goals around, or that managers want to create goals around. We do have similar questions from previous surveys we've done in the past. Again, a little different wording, but that we can try to find, some, what is our goal on these areas if we want to improve.
So Amanda, but between these two, then we have the intersection between how we're currently doing and what's most important to our employees.
Absolutely, because these are the core drivers. So if we're going to focus, these are the bang for our buck, basically, of these are the areas that are commonly surveyed for the things that are important to employees.
And Amanda, these were the only choices, right? There were no other choices that are not displayed here.
No, these are the core drivers of engagement, and the full list of core drivers.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. All right. Okay. And then, so I'm going to kind of move along to some of the more specific questions. So again, these were kind of overall views of our satisfaction and how we're doing with those core drivers. If you look at this question, I see myself working at KVH 2 years from now. So this is a retention question, how can we retain our workforce? And when you look at the strongly agree, 50% of our employees say they strongly agree that they see themselves working here 2 years from now. Another 26.7% say that they agree with that. And so again, when you look at the combining of those two, 77.2% strongly agree or agree with that they see themselves here 2 years from now. Neither agree nor disagree, so neutral, 15.2%, disagree 2.9%, and strongly disagree 4.5%. Again, this is those unknowns of surveying, right? Because we don't necessarily know, is this because people, hey gosh, I'm retiring next year, so of course I'm not going to be here 2 years from now? Or is this, people thinking, I don't know if KVH is going a direction that I personally believe in or is a good fit for me. So again, this is why this is a starting point of conversations that we really hope to continue to have. And we continue to look at how we're retaining our employees, what's important to them. We're going to be doing a stronger focus on exit interviews here, and HR is one of our goals, as well as some onboarding surveys to try to retain people within that first year. And so we have some other strategies that we can look at for some data as well. But depending on where that neutral group goes, that neither agree or nor disagree, how can we, if people are kind of on the fence, how do we give them the confidence that they can see themselves here, if it's not a timing issue, but a fit issue, and see themselves with a future here at KVH. I will say that this is really right on track with our turnover rates and kind of common rates of turnover in healthcare. And looking back at some of the board reports that we've been submitting over the past several months, I was doing some comparing of data around this retention question. You may have noticed that in 2019, our turnover rate was 22%. In 2020, it was 16%. So we've improved 6%, which I'm very curious on. Again, this is just our initial processing of this together. 6% of our turnover rate, which is really, really interesting. And so I'd love to know more about that. And especially during a challenging year like we've all had during COVID, that means that we've actually improved our retention. And I hope it's because of those things that are reflected above in our engagement that we're doing well. So that's just a thought on that. And then we have some custom responses. So these were areas that we selected. So we're not going to have benchmarking on these unless we do the same survey in the future, which again is one strategy we can talk about. But these are the things that we selected as questions that are important to us that we would like to know from our employees. So the first one, to what extent do you agree with the following statement? KVH offers the most important medical services needed by the community. 56.1% agree with that. 19.3% strongly agree with that. 16.3% neither agree nor disagree, and a small amount, less than 10% total, disagree or strongly disagree with that statement. So, and talks about strategic planning and our growth, and I imagine this will be another really big question that we all process together is, what direction do we go for our community, and when we're looking at partnerships and collaboration and patient experience, and I can see this one being a really great one to dive into a little bit more as well. And what examples do our employees have of services maybe that they hear from our patients that they get common questions on, or that they feel like we could spend more time focusing on? Any questions on that, or the retention question?
Amanda, I just have a general question. It looks like Michelle noted that we had 365 people respond to the survey. Is that accurate?
That is what she said, yes.
Why are all the responses showing 374 then? Where are the extra 9 responses coming from?
So because I'm sharing my screen, I can't really log into the system at this time. Michelle, I don't know if you're logged in, and as we go along, if you want to clarify that and feel free to
That's
jump.
funny. I am not logged in because I don't have access, but I am communicating with Jen right now to see if she can give us some insight.
Okay, great, thank you. Actually, if you could be that person for me, Michelle, during this session, that would be fantastic. So
sure will.
Okay, thank you, that'd be great. Let's see here. So let's move along to the next question. And it's, to what extent do you agree with the following statement? KVH is a better place to work than it was 2 years ago. So this is kind of a comparison question over the past 2 years. And this one was really interesting. Looking at this, that our highest scoring category was actually the neutral category. Neither agree nor disagree at 55.9%. Agree 27.8%, strongly agree 10.4%, disagree 4.5%, and strongly disagree 1.3%. So again, just processing this and knowing that there's such a strong neutral group, we really don't know. And again, this is a great opportunity to maybe ask some follow-up questions, within the departments or organizationally. Is this because people weren't here 2 years ago, like myself? I don't recall, but I may have been one of those that selected that way, thinking, gosh, I don't feel like I can fully answer that because I wasn't here 2 years ago. Or was it that people don't feel they really know enough about our progress to answer, or that they are kind of apathetic and they just don't know. They just don't really know how to answer and haven't really thought about it. So that's an interesting one, and you'll see a common theme here with the patient care. Very similar.
Mandy, I don't know if this is something you can say in this meeting, but over the last year, how many employee numbers may have had a disciplinary discussion with human resources? Because that might be interesting for the board to know that there was 3 or 4 people that had a serious discussion with the HR. We don't need to know who they are.
Right.
And that would allow us to kind of see where that number came in the lower end of these statements, because there's probably a good chance that they would have answered that at that statement, and that would kind of give us an idea of where those lower numbers may have come from.
Right. Yeah, thank you. You know, we can certainly talk. I'll make a note of that as far as our monthly metrics that we report out to the board. And if there's a way confidentially, like you mentioned, that the board would like to be informed of the support that HR gives to managers and employees around those difficult conversations, we're happy to report that. But again, that I go back to my original statement about a survey like this is hard to really focus on those types of questions because you know, each individual is going to have their own employment experience, and that's why we encourage those personalized conversations with people as well.
So I will just say I was really disappointed in the really high neutral number that we have here.
Yeah.
Between the top, so my interpretation of this is that of the 374 responses, 352 believe that we're not getting worse. So when I do the math on this, people think it's either getting better or it at least is staying the same. And the fact that we're not moving the needle for 56%, which is 209 people, Amanda spent a lot of time saying, Julie, a lot of people haven't been here 2 years. I still feel like this is a place that is ripe for us understanding more about how people experience employment here.
Yeah.
And the neutral is almost sort of in one way, it's really disappointing. In the other way, it's not a headwind. It's, you know, ripe to be planted with some, you know, different approaches to supervision or discussion about work schedules or staff development or, but I will admit to being disappointed by the 56% that we're neutral about if we're headed in the right direction as an employer.
Well, I mean, I think it's good to focus on what we can improve. So I'm glad that we have that attitude, but I mean, I'm trying to think of an organization I've been a part of where I just think over 2 years that we're just going gangbusters, that 2/5 of the employees think that we're getting better. I mean, isn't it mostly just, yeah, it's fine. I mean, most of the places I've been, I think pretty much all the people I know would say, yeah, it's about the same. So 2/5 seems like quite a lot to me to think that, yes, it's improved. And especially at the next one, you know, better place to receive care. Geez, oh man, that seems like 2/5 seems like a big number just in a 2-year period to have improved. So I don't know. To me, that seems like a big number because pretty much every place that I've been over 2 years, a mere 2 years, I'd probably say, yeah, it's about the same, including every 2-year period of time I've been at Central. You know, I mean, we're doing fine, but come on, I don't think we're going gangbusters.
Right. So the good news is 94% of our employees don't think we're going in the wrong direction as an employer. How do you energize that 56%? And again, it's easier to move a neutral than it is to, you know, move somebody who has their heels dug in. So, but
that's right. You know, big culture changes. It's not uncommon to take years when you're trying to change a whole culture. So I think I think that's a good point. Michelle, you got
I'm going to raise my hand here. So I just heard back from Jen, and the discrepancy was the final push day getting the survey responses. Those responses did not get incorporated into our total count. So we had 9 that final day, which brings it up to 374, which is what you're seeing here on the screen, which makes the response rate 78.9%. Or depending on how far you went around, 80.
Yeah, because these are directly from our dashboard. So this is going to be the most accurate number, I think. Is the other numbers were more of our spot checks in reporting. So
correct.
Okay.
Hey, Mandy, I got a question. And so, you know, some of these, we don't have a baseline, right? Were there some of the questions in the previous, and I believe it was like 3 years ago, whatever, the engagement survey back then that would be related to some of these to at least kind of get a baseline or comparison to?
Yep. So we've used a couple different companies. So in the past couple of years, we've used Tiny Pulse. And so we've done some spot questions, and then we did do kind of an end of the year kind of comprehensive but we didn't have as much communication on it, so we didn't really get a good response rate. But we do have some benchmark data from that. And then we did use NBRI before, I believe. And so Jen is kind of, again, we just got these results about a week ago. And so we're processing this with all you very initially. But like Jeff said, there's opportunity there. If there's areas that we want to dive in deeper and kind of see the trends with KVH, we can look back at some of our other surveys and what are some similar questions, and, are we improving in those areas? So, yeah, good. Okay, and then to what extent do you agree with the following statement? Management did and is doing a good job of managing the organization during the COVID pandemic. So agree was the top, the most rated was agree at 46.3%, strongly agree at 33.4%, neither agree nor disagree at 14.2%, disagree 3.2%, and strongly disagree 2.9%. So it's interesting if you just look at kind of the visuals and again, kind of the shapes of, I guess, the responses here. You do see similar percentages for some of these questions as far as the strongly disagree. And so, again, it's is there a portion of our employees that are feeling strongly about some of these topics and don't agree? But when you look at the strongly agree and agree, there's similar, the way people, I guess, if you look at the way people are responding, is kind of similar throughout these questions, which is kind of interesting. But strongly agree and agree. So the majority of our employees feel that we did a good job of managing the organization during the COVID pandemic, which is great. So of course that took a lot of different area, but there was definitely a lot of emphasis on that, on communication and our employee forums. And so I know we've heard good feedback on those areas, and we'll continue to find ways to engage our employees during this time. Okay, and then to what extent do you agree with the following statement? I'm proud of the role that KVH plays in the community. Most people agree with that statement at 44.7%, strongly agree at 38.2%, neither agree or disagree at 15.8%, strongly disagree at 0.8%, and disagree at 0.5%. So again, the vast majority of our employees agree with that statement. I'm proud of the role that KVH plays in the community. To what extent do you agree with the following statement? I believe KVH will be a better place to receive care 2 years from now. So looking ahead, most people agree with that statement, 43.3%, neither agree nor disagree at 35%, strongly agree 19.8%, and disagree 1.1%, strongly disagree 0.8%. So again, this is anticipating that it'll be a better place to receive care 2 years from now. The majority of our employees believe that they agree with that, or neither agree nor disagree with that statement. To what extent do you agree with the following statement? I trust the Board of Commissioners to care about KVH employees. Agree. This was one selected by you guys, so as the board, which is great to kind of get some feedback there. 40.6% agree, 33.4% neither agree nor disagree, 16.8% strongly agree, and then disagree 7.2%, strongly disagree 1.9%. So again, this is another, and it's so great that you were able to get out there and talk to employees and have that opportunity to request their feedback. And we don't know, and it would be great to continue this conversation, maybe perhaps in other opportunities, is this because they don't necessarily, or do they feel not informed? This neither agree nor disagree, being 33.4%. Is it that they don't feel informed about your role? Or is there maybe they want to get to know the commissioners more? So again, we could spend a lot of time speculating those things, but it's a great opportunity for communication and conversations when you're working with employees in our community, to find out more about that and what do they need to kind of feel that they can trust that care. So any thoughts on this, or any feedback? Okay. To what extent do you agree with the following statement? I believe KVH will be a better place to work 2 years from now. Again, you see agree 39.6%, neither agree nor disagree 39%, strongly agree 17.9%, disagree 2.4%, strongly disagree 1.1%. So again, having more conversation there is what would it take to believe it's going to be a great place to work, and what is all of our responsibility in that? What can we do? What do we need our employees to focus on? What do we need our managers to focus on? What can we as senior leadership and the board focus on to really keep driving this, and talking more about what is our goal around that area. Okay. So before I scroll down, I will talk about comments a little bit. So there was some questions and confusion about comments. We didn't have a comment section for every question that we asked. And comments, again, can be a little challenging because there are some times where people will use that kind of in a way where maybe confidentiality isn't as protected as much. So we do try to be respectful of that. Or it's somebody talking about their own individual employment experience and not kind of their overall feedback of the organization, which again, we hope that they would kind of go to the right avenue for that. But there was a place for them to put comments with kind of what are the best aspects of the job enjoyed by employees, and with KVH, some of those overall satisfaction drivers that we talked about in the beginning. So I'm going to scroll through those, and of course, not read every question word by word, but I did just kind of want to scroll through and point out some specific areas of quotes that I think kind of represent some of those domains of engagement, like we talked about. And going through these initially, again, we didn't scrub anything. These are just the comments are listed here. But I did kind of put into some themes of what are some things that kind of came out multiple times in the comments by employees that they did mention were important to them. So you'll see things like meaningful contribution to the community at the top. That came up quite a few times. Job details, kind of scheduling, benefits, paid time off, career development. We saw some themes like that. Liking the people that they work with and serving their community definitely came up quite a bit. So those kind of core themes about what their job benefits and job details came up, but also the people, the meaningful contribution they make, and again, seeing some of those things that we know are important. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of just really highlight some of the areas. I'm just kind of scrolling here again. We're not going to read them word for word today, but I do have some themes that I've kind of put together of those that we can continue to talk about. But I will read some quotes. So KVH is a great place to work. Since my first day, everyone has been welcoming, which makes me actually want to come to work. Everyone is so great and always willing to lend a hand, which is great because that really comes from our code of excellence. I love what I'm doing because my direct supervisor supports and encourages me to learn and includes me in the building processes of the position and line of service. She makes me feel like I am needed, wanted, not just another warm body doing a job. So that's the bummer sometimes of these things being confidential. I sure wish that we could, follow up on some of these, and be able to recognize those people that have been called out very, very well. But hearing things like direct supervisor, we don't know who that is, but it definitely shows the importance of people's relationship with their supervisors and managers to feel that engagement in their job. And I serve my community in a meaningful and important way. My teams are supportive and patient focused. Staff across the organization are kind and helpful, and patients come first in all we do. So again, you see the community aspects, the manager aspects, having it be a great work experience. Those are the things that we know to be important to our employees. We definitely saw them reflected in the comments. We really didn't see a lot of negative comments, in these areas, but again, if people had specific areas of concern, that they are encouraged to work directly with HR or their senior leader or manager to address any individual employment concerns. We're looking at overall themes. So that is really kind of, again, these are direct screenshots. We have access to these in the system, in our dashboard. That is the great thing in our system, is we can pull some of this information and we can look back at some of our other surveys to see kind of similar questions and how we've done. I expect that we'll have many more conversations with this, especially around our strategic planning and our kind of committees in strategic planning. If there's some objective data that we could pull from here that we could I've already seen, you know, some people kind of quoting using the engagement survey is some benchmark data for their strategic planning committees, which is fantastic. So I think it can be used in multiple different ways. The goal, though, is to respect, of course, the intent of the survey and respect the feedback that employees give, thanking them for their feedback, and really making sure that we can process it together the right way and in a meaningful way. So any comments before we talk about kind of next steps and some possible ways that we can communicate this back out to employees and continue the conversation?
I really like that one comment about the best part of working at KVH is camaraderie between employees. Seeing different people from different departments coordinate to ensure the best care for the patient. I know historically in other organizations as well as KVH, we would have sometimes problems, you know, transferring patients from one department to the next department, or somehow having imaging tied up so that we couldn't get another patient taken care of in the imaging. So having somebody think that we're doing good camaraderie in our organization, I think is something that's really good and that we should continue to focus on and to engage with and try to move forward more with it.
Good. That's great. Definitely within our values, and it's really important that we've got a lot going on, but how we treat each other is something in our control in healthcare, and it's really important. So, okay. So as far as next steps and how we can use this, as I mentioned, we don't have really advanced reporting system within this survey tool, the skill survey. We do have the opportunity to break down some department dashboards, and you know, we want to be really respectful of how we use that data. There are, again, with respect to confidentiality, sometimes employees feel like, oh gosh, if my specific comment is shared, people could identify me. So that's another thing with comments that can be a little tricky, and why we like to theme them, not to overanalyze them or to censor them, but just to make sure that we're really getting the essence of comments, and you know, that people feel that confidentiality is respected. But we do have dashboards that we can help support managers with, and we'd love to have conversations with you as the board and senior leadership and the department directors is what would be helpful. You know, just for example, I was looking at a department just to kind of see what views we have. We haven't really had a chance to even look at any of the data yet, but I looked at a sample of a department that we have some open positions on right now. And I saw that this department was over our average on how they feel about KVH as an organization. And so I thought, gosh, what about how can we use this data for all aspects of developing employees, giving them feedback, giving leadership development opportunities, giving staff development opportunities. But from a recruiting perspective, as a perfect example today is, wow, this department feels like more connected on average to our organization than our average score. So that's really great. How can we celebrate that and get more feedback from those employees? So I think I'd love to continue. You can think on it. How can we use this data organizationally for our planning sessions? And how do we support managers who have goals around engagement in the right and appropriate way? As far as next step for employees, I would say definitely a communication going out quickly is important. Even if it's just overall aspects, and then we dive into deeper later. You know, when we do something like this, people do wonder. And I always say the worst thing we can do is nothing, because they've spent a lot of energy, and a lot of departments had 100% participation rate, which is amazing, which only helps with the credibility of the data. And so it's important to, I think, communicate quickly and often and at different stages, and would love to hear your thoughts.
Amanda, Erica here. I really enjoy what you said about the worst thing that we could do is nothing. I think you're absolutely right, for it to just end up in a black hole, and that would just scream that we don't care. So I think carefully crafting a response that's thoughtful is critical.
Great, thank you.
So I guess one of the things that I'm struggling with is in the survey that we did in 2015 and then in 16 again, I think there was a sort of a traditional rollout of the information that said, here is how KVH did relative to a bunch of other organizations.
Yeah.
And here's how each of the departments rank within each question. And I'm finding myself wanting that.
Mhm.
And I think that's not what this survey is trying to encourage you to do. And I'm struggling with that a little bit. It's more about, pick the intersection of what's important and what you need to work on, and then do it globally.
Right.
And I don't know if maybe I'm the only one feeling that way, but it's sort of a less ranking and some finger pointing kind of approach to the data than I think that traditional, oh, you suck at this and excuse me, you're below par on this and you're really good at, so you have a tendency to hang out on the stuff you're doing well at and get really frustrated at the stuff that you're below at. So anyway,
Yeah.
I guess I see finding the weave of those, what's important to people and how are we doing it, the things that are important to them, to be how we use this information.
Yeah. That's
You
a good-
know, I always have an issue to a certain degree when we compare ourselves to other organizations. When I was a pharmacist, working as a pharmacy director in organizations, people would ask, well, how are our medication errors compared to other organizations? And having that, it's really good to compare yourself to yourself. Because if you are having an error in the organization, you want to compare it to yourself to make sure that you reduce the error in the organization. And if every organization has 10% errors and you only have 9% errors, does that mean that you're a great organization, even though you're doing 9% things wrong? So I think that when we do look at organizations, we really need to look closely at comparing at ourselves when we move forward and how we've done well in our organization, because we can't say, oh, we're okay because everybody else is having the same problem. We just don't need to address it. But no, we do need to address it because we want to get that problem to move forward.
I agree. Thanks, Terry. That's really thoughtful. And what I will say to Julie's point is, it is true. There are some surveys that are more geared towards here's the red areas, and but then the challenge is sometimes people don't necessarily feel equipped to talk about those areas or how do they address those areas. And that's why I think partnership with directors and employees and the board and senior leadership is so important, because sometimes people can feel discouraged and stuck if they don't know what to do, with some of those lower areas. And that's really where things can vary between department very much. And what are people experiencing on a day-to-day basis? There's also a school of thought that, if you look at the Gallup organization and their focus on strengths, and that you get the most benefit from focusing on the things you're strong at because they are important to employees, that you might improve in other areas. And I'll just pick, for example, if we're already really strong and my skills are a great match for my job, and we're like, gosh, we know that's important, it's a strong area, what can we learn about that? Maybe that might help some other areas, like people feeling energized by the work they're doing in their job if they feel like they're in a great match for their job. So it's interesting, and they're all very much related to one another. And but that's why it's just a starting point, and we can speculate, but it really takes being on the Gemba and approaching our employees, having these personal conversations that can really help us understand it a little better.
Amanda, can you scroll down to the next page?
Yeah.
So one after that, sorry. This one.
Yeah.
So these are the engagement drivers. I'm assuming we have the same data on these questions that say how many people said for that 4.4 said that they strongly agree, or neutral.
Well, I'll look into that. I'll make note. And if not, we can work with the company and break down some of these a little bit more.
Because you get down to, I have sufficient opportunities for growth. I'll be really interested to see, again, like the one I like to harp on, where neutral was so high. How much of that is neutral and above, and how much of that is, wow, people really do feel stuck in their jobs. What can we do about that?
Right. Absolutely. Is it a bell curve, or is it a strongly weighted on one end versus the other. So yeah.
And can you, on these questions, will we be able to look at the department level?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I just looked at a sample view earlier and we can see those from the department level. Yeah. Which is great because again, as managers, are developing their floppies, or if we're hearing feedback from an employee perspective, like, gosh, communication or teamwork could really improve in our department. Can you help us? We can then be a support for those managers, not a way to say, here's a score, we're not going to help you and what are you going to do about it? But it's again, just another data point for us to say, we're seeing a trend between our engagement data and what we're hearing from our employees. These might be areas that we focus on.
So I read the top one on this. I have 4.4, my skills are a great fit for my job.
Yeah.
But I'm not going anywhere. It's the bottom one. It's like, I'm a great fit for the job I have right now, but there's no career path for me. So
right. It's interesting.
I'm glass half emptying it today for some reason. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know we're over our time a little bit here. So I just wanted to, any other thoughts or questions, things that I can note that we could look into? Oh, actually we have till 3:30. So I built in actually some time for that. That's right. So other thoughts and questions or areas that we want to dive into a little bit more?
Just could you remind me, Amanda, how we're going to inform employees about the results? We're going to give them a link to this recording, I suppose. Is there anything else that we're planning to do?
I recommend strongly so, and would love your feedback, Matt, on how we do that. At the very minimum, I think, we did put in the announcements that thank you for your completion, and we really publicized the completion rates. At the very minimum, I think we should kind of give some of our overall scores and overall data to say, thank you, we're still processing this, but we have listened and we have began discussions. I just have to commend, that we're having this conversation a week out of getting the results. I mean, I've worked for other organizations where, we sit and stress on this and ponder it. And it just really shows the transparency, I think, at KVH is we don't have all the answers yet. And we shouldn't expect ourselves to have all the answers yet. And I don't think our employees expect us to either. But I do think we owe it to them to say, here's some initial data that we're finding very briefly, and that we would like to explore some of these areas in the future. But I think we should all come together on that and kind of craft a message. Maybe that's something I could follow up with you, Matt, on, and we could look with Julie on some language.
That's fine. I mean, I think it would be a good idea to remind them what purpose this is going to serve, that we're going to take this into strategic planning. But I'm wondering, maybe this is too, I don't know, ambitious or what, but I mean, a lot of this data, I think, could be disseminated as is. I mean, you might want to cut out the comments, right? Because those should be scrubbed probably to ensure anonymity and stuff like that. But as far as this overall data, I mean, I wonder if it would be, if people have an objection to just sort of sharing that, the numbers. How do people feel about, is that too much information to give? I don't know. I mean, they'll see it if they watch this, so I suppose it's out there. But what do people think about that?
I think it's a good, transparent move.
I like them having the numbers out there. I just hope that they don't try to determine who the one or two people that disagree with everything are, and try to hunt them down. But I think seeing the numbers is good.
Yeah, I think it's great. I would probably only formatting, just try to make it a little more concise, probably maybe just try to fit them all into a little bit more of a easier visuals. Again, we just pulled these by hand for our conversation, very rough notes. So, but we can look at kind of more of a just simplified format, so it's not so many pages. And, I don't know if we think about doing an employee form, kind of like we did here with you. My only concern would be the conversation, I think, has been so great with you. And, do employees, for example, know what engagement drivers are? They might not know what that means. And so just something for us to think about is how do we at least explain where this information came from and why.
You're
And I
making,
think it'd be a
you're
good
making
idea.
me seasick moving up and down that way, Amanda. So.
Yeah, sorry.
I think it'd be a good idea for you and I to sit down and
Yeah.
we can definitely put something together and kick it out to the board and see if they like that idea.
Yeah, Michelle will make it look pretty. Michelle
Yeah.
will make it look nice.
Actually, that would be great, Michelle.
I can help it make sense too.
That would be
That
wonderful.
too, yeah, that too. But I mean, the numbers I think could be, after you sort of make it more easily digestible and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the numbers could pretty much be released as is, just withhold the comments. And then, just to remind them about the purpose. But
yeah.
Any other thoughts? I don't know, Bob, if you or John have any thoughts on the next step for disseminating the information?
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely think we need to present it to the staff in a way that is understandable, that they kind of can translate that into, hey, this is the direction we're going to go. So, but yeah, I'm pleased. Oh my goodness, this compared to the last one, this is amazing.
So operationally, and help me out, Amanda, I'm really not a fan of ranking departments, particularly in an organization this size where you get down to, you can't help but look around the room and say, I wonder who the 3 was. But I do think from a span of control, from a senior leadership perspective, I would like to know I want to know, do nurses agree that their skills are a great match for the job?
Mm-hmm.
Does Scott's financial services people, because that goes to training and stuff for me. Are they getting the hands-on orientation that they need to be a good PSR or to be a good revenue cycle person or to be a good nurse? Operationally, I want to look at this by senior leader, because that tells me about the careers that people are in and whether we're engaging people with specific skills. So
I agree.
John, I'm sorry, John, you had a thought about this?
Yeah, I just want to make it clear. I agree. The more we can get the unfiltered information out there, the more it connects with what we were telling people. The unfilteredness of, they spend their time giving us the information, and then we present it back kind of as a whole, so they can see how their organization feels and that sort of thing. But like everyone said, we obviously just want to be careful not that you could identify any individual. Thus, striking the comment seems the most logical. So I don't know if we could put it on the website somewhere with a link, and then if we send an email out, include a link to the website, or do you not want it accessed publicly, only for employees?
It's a public document.
Yeah. And I don't, and what's, and beyond the obvious, what's the purpose of sharing this meeting or making a bigger deal out of this meeting than any other board type meeting versus it seems like what the employees are interested in is the data, not necessarily our approach to, looking at it page by page.
So I guess what's important to me is one of the messages I heard was that the employee opinion surveys or engagement surveys in the past have been shrouded in secrecy. And there's been dialogue back and forth about whether they're public documents or not, and whether even board members can have access to some of the information that's in the employee opinion survey. I don't know how much of that is perception and how much of that was truth, but I want employees to understand the board has a value of transparency. We asked you to go out and encourage employees to fill out this survey. I want the employees to know that essentially Amanda was the only one that knew what the results were when this meeting started.
Yeah.
That was important to me. So.
The senior leadership team is also getting this information with you at the same time. And so again, I think this will be the first of several conversations in talking about how can we support those different units and departments with this information.
And time, one of the things that helps to overcome this perception of secrecy is sort of a timing thing. Do you guys think we'll be able to get this information out maybe this is a question mostly for Amanda and Michelle, but by the end of the week, maybe, is that too quick? All we'd have to do, I think, is just make the data more digestible, cut off the comments, and I mean, what do you guys think?
I don't think it's unreasonable to communicate something by the end of the week, even if it's that we are working on ways to format this information or whatnot. Again, the great thing about us not over filtering this is that, you know, it's pretty much ready. It's a visual thing. But
Yeah.
I think it's okay to say, I think the main thing is employees never know these conversations. So to Julie's point, I mean, we actually are spending quite a bit of time and thought on this data, and employees don't know that. They don't know if we're ever reviewing it. So I think the main message is that we had this meeting today and we took it very seriously and we appreciated your feedback, and we all, you know, thought about different ways that we can improve as an organization. I think that's the main part, is that we're doing something with it. Even if we don't have the data all ready to share, I think it's important for them to know that we got it, we're talking about it, we had a meeting already, even after only 1 week, and more to come.
I agree.
Is
Yeah,
there-
that makes
yep.
sense. Just we just have to be careful on the, having the data ready to present.
Yeah,
That might raise some suspicions, but
right.
Could we share some of it, the upcoming employee forum, some of the highlights?
I think it's important that we do share it soon, because if they know that it's over with, they know the data has been gathered. And if it's like Matt was saying, if we don't give it to them fairly soon, people are going, well, why haven't they give us the data? And they're going to start making up things like, well, they haven't cooked the books yet. We need to get the data out there.
So our initial communications when we talked about this with the staff was that we actually said it would be summarized at the May board meeting. And this hadn't been scheduled. So I don't disagree with Amanda that I think it's perfectly reasonable to get something out this week. I think we just need to work with Julie and you as a board to finalize exactly what that is.
Yeah.
This coming employee forum, I know, has a very full agenda. Now, I'm sure Julie can hit some topics on it, but.
So,
I agree. Sorry, Julie. Yeah, I agree. Getting something, sending something out. I mean, having a link to this recorded meeting, getting something out by the end of the week, just so they can see what it was, and then in the May board meeting we can talk about it in more detail and stuff like that. But yeah, getting something out quickly I think is good. Sorry, Julie.
no, I was just going to say at the Thursday forum, which is about workforce and the vaccine, it is a full agenda. I will take the last couple of minutes, so work with me, Michelle, on writing something up to say the results are in. We've had a meeting with the board to share them tomorrow, which would be Friday at the very latest. The survey itself will be on the intranet with a link and a link to this meeting. Further information to come. Does that do it?
When? Sorry, Julie, when?
This Thursday.
This Thursday? Yeah, I mean, I think if it can be done by the end of the week, I think that's great. And it doesn't have to, I don't think it needs to be discussed at the employee forum, some big thing. We can discuss it at the board meeting. And if we want to do it at another employee forum sometime, we don't have to cram it into this really full one. I think it's just a matter of sending it out by email or what have you. And then we can talk about it in more detail later.
Okay, got it.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts?
No pressure, Amanda and Michelle.
No, that's okay.
Hey, it's I mean, trying to change the culture of a place and to bolster employee morale and things like that. There's some of these sort of key moments where it takes a lot of work, but the hope is that you can sort of turn the ship just gradually. So I think it's great that we're having this meeting so quickly afterward, and I appreciate, Amanda, you putting this together and helping walk us through it. And I mean, I think that transparency has always been a concern for a lot of people. So I think this will go a long way toward reassuring some people. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think the transparency is really important because we're going to tell them this is the scrub data. And you don't need to be a goof like I was and tell them to wash their hands afterwards because the data hasn't been scrubbed. But they do need to see the data out there and, you know, let them know the board is analyzing it and coming up with some solutions. I think that's also important because they need to know that we're looking at this and moving forward with it. But I think having it out there by Friday is a really good time.
Great. Okay. And thank you to everybody who was part of this process and communicating it. And I look forward to hopefully more conversations on this topic in our upcoming meetings and strategic planning.
Thank you for all your efforts with this. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, I remember one of the questions from several years ago was asking the staff, the last survey that was kind of an eye opener for the board. You know, if they felt good in their job, felt like they did a good job, and they all, you know, majority said yes. But at the same time, they would not tell their friends or family to come get services at our hospital.
Mm-hmm.
That tone versus this tone that we're seeing here is like a huge difference. I mean, there's obviously work to be done, but this is awesome. This is great. And the turnout is more than what we thought. I think it says a lot, shows a lot, and we're totally on the right track.
Well, thank you very much for your help with turning folks out. I know they appreciated that and the both. So
Yeah, that was fun. So anything else? No. So if there's anything else, I guess we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. You got Julie?
nope, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Me.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
Joe.
everyone.
See ya.
Thank you.